माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन रा just a minute, I'm sorry. Okay. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामो राम रामो हरे 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 कृष्णा. So welcome all of you all for our weekly Gita class. So we are in the concluding section of the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So this is text 37. Yetedamsi samsiddho agnir bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tata. Word to word. Yata, just as, edhamsi, firewood, samidha, blazing, agnihi, fire, bhasmasat, ashes, kurute, turns, Arjuna, O Arjuna, jnana agnihi, the fire of knowledge, sarva karmani, all reactions to material activities, bhasmasat, to ashes, kurute, it turns, tata, similarly. So translation is like this: as a blazing fire, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so Arjuna, does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So here Krishna is giving an example that just like fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly the fire of transcendental knowledge. So this chapter is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So the fire of transcendental knowledge burns all kinds of reactions. Whatever reactions we have, pap and punya karma in our heart, everything is burnt away. So this is a very beautiful example. In the previous shloka, uh, Krishna gave the example of a boat. Right? Transcendental knowledge is compared to a boat, right? And just like this material world is like an ocean, and in order to cross an ocean, you need a boat. So transcendental knowledge is like that boat. And here Krishna is giving another example, and this example is transcendental knowledge is like fire. And just like fire burns firewood into ashes, similarly, by connecting to the wisdom of Gita, by hearing regularly Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all the anarthas in our hearts, all the sinful reactions in our hearts will get destroyed. So Prabhupada says that this is a very, very beautiful example. And you can see in this chart, this is a shloka from the Padma Puran, Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam falon mukan क्रमेणेव प्रलीयते विष्णुर bhakti ratatmam. So this word says that just like you know, so here papa is compared to seeds. So we can see this chart here. All sin, these are the stages of sinful reactions that we get. So everything begins with avidya, ignorance. So because of ignorance, we get sinful desires. So what is ignorance? When we think that we are this body, right? Because of which there are sinful desires that come. You want to enjoy this body, right? You want to get into all kinds of enjoyments. This is called sinful desires. So bija is like the seed, right? So when you sow a seed, a plant grows or a tree grows, right? So when we choose a particular desire to focus and we act upon it, then it is called papa, sinful action. And from that papa, we get reactions. And what kind of reactions? The first kind of reaction is called aprarabdha karma. So aprarabdha means unmanifest reactions. That means you will be getting reactions, but right now it is not manifest. So right now in our lives also, we may have committed a lot of sins, but those reactions have not manifested. After some time they manifest, and it is called prarabdha, manifest reaction. Just like the particular body in which we are born, right? The particular mindset that we have, the kind of diseases that we have is all because of prarabdha, manifest reaction, and that leads to suffering. And then not only this, every time we commit a particular sin, we get reactions to it. Along with that, the sinful disposition also increases, and this is called kutam, the sinful disposition. And this becomes like a vicious cycle, right? So we have desires, we act on it, we suffer, and then the further the material desires increase, and it continues on like this. But this verse from the Padma Puran, which is shown on the screen, it explains that Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam, anyone who practices and engages in bhakti, gradually, Kramaineva Praliyate, gradually all the stages of sin will be destroyed. Why? Because by practicing bhakti, one actually achieves real knowledge. So the root of sin is avidya, ignorance. And the way we destroy ignorance is by knowledge. So therefore, when we come continuously in contact with Gita Bhagavatam, this fire of transcendental knowledge helps burn all the sinful reactions and even the uh, pious reactions. Because in this world, even if we do something good and we have to enjoy the activities of that good results, for that also we have to take birth. But the power of bhakti and the power of spirituality is such that it can destroy both pious and impious activities, and then we reach a stage where our karma account is closed, right? There is nothing left, and we enter into the spiritual world. So this is what Prabhupada explains in text 37. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddha kale natmani vindati. Word to word, no, nothing, he certainly, jnanena with knowledge, sadrisham in comparison, pavitram sanctified, iha in this world, vidyate exists, tat that, swayam himself, yoga in devotion, samsiddha he who is mature, kalena in course of time, atmani in himself, vindati enjoys. This is a very beautiful verse. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. So, Krishna is glorifying this path of achieving transcendental knowledge, pure knowledge. So, in this world, everyone is seeking knowledge, but the real knowledge is this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, the knowledge of Gita and Bhagavatam. And Krishna is saying there is nothing as sublime as this. This is so sublime and so pure. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. And we saw in the beginning of this chapter also, Krishna explains how transcendental knowledge is the king of all knowledge, the topmost knowledge. So what we are learning here in these classes is something that is very, very spiritual, very, very pure. Right? And Krishna himself is glorifying this knowledge, and he's saying that such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism. So the of all kinds of yoga, of all different kinds of yoga system, karma, jnana, dhyana, the process of bhakti yoga, this kind of knowledge is the culmination. Just like the Bhagavatam begins with explaining how Bhagavatam is like the ripened fruit. If all the Vedas are compared to a tree, Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit. So similarly, Krishna is saying here, this is the mature fruit of all mysticism. So what we are getting in Gita Bhagavatam is the result of the essence of all Vedic study. Just like Shankaracharya in his Gita Mahatma, he quotes this very beautiful shloka. He compares all the Vedas and the Upanishads to a cow, and he compares Bhagavad Gita to the milk of the cow. So this is the essence, the mature, ripened fruit. So if we regularly attend classes of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and read these books, all our ignorance will be destroyed. Just like we saw in the previous slide, the root cause of all our suffering is ignorance. Prabhupada explains here, ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. We are all bound in this world because of ignorance. And if you want to become liberated, the only way is knowledge. So when we achieve this knowledge, we'll be so blissful. Krishna is explaining here that one person will enjoy this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Everyone in this world wants peace, happiness, satisfaction. Everything is possible if you just sit down and peacefully read Gita, Bhagavatam, chant the holy names. We will attain everything. So Prabhupada concludes here. In other words, knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. So if you are Krishna conscious, if you are practicing Bhakti Yoga, knowledge also is there and peace also is there. So Krishna through this verse is inspiring all of us to take up to the study of Gita and practice Bhakti little more seriously. Because everyone in life is looking for peace, happiness, satisfaction. Everything is possible if you just take up to this study of the scriptures. Text 39. Shraddhaval labate jnanam tatpara samit समयेन्द्रिय ज्ञानम लब्ध्वा पराम शांतिम अचिरेनाधिगच्छति. Word to word, Shraddhavan, a faithful man, Labate, achieves, Jnanam, knowledge, Tat Paraha, very much attached to it, Samyata, controlled, Indriyaha, senses, Jnanam, knowledge, Labdva, having achieved, Param, transcendental, Shantam, peace, Achirena, very soon, Adigachati, attains. Translation, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Jnanam labdva param shantim achirena digachati. So this is also a very important verse. Who can attain such transcendental knowledge? Many people may join the school of spirituality who can actually achieve success in it. So Krishna is saying here, a faithful man. So who's a faithful man? One who is dedicated to this process. So it's not that one will join and immediately one will get the result. One needs patience. If one is dedicated to this transcendental knowledge, to this pursuit of knowledge, and is able to control his senses, such a person will achieve transcendental knowledge and he will actually achieve peace. And Prabhupada quotes from in Chaitanya Charitamrita, what is the definition of Shraddha, faith? Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kahe, Shridrida Nishtay, Krishna Bhakti Kaile, Sarva Karma Krita Hai. So Shraddha, ya faith means that by rendering loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all other subsidiary activities. Such faith is something that is very, very important. So therefore, Krishna says, one who is faithful to this process, faithful means dedicated to this process, can actually achieve perfection. So this word faith is something that is very, very important. Even though we are discussing knowledge, knowledge is on the platform of the intelligence, but spiritual knowledge is on the platform of faith. In order to develop this real knowledge, one needs faith. So both are needed. One needs knowledge on the level of the intelligence, but one needs faith in the level of the heart. One needs determination and conviction. So someone may say, I don't have faith. How to attain firm faith? Prabhupada mentions here few important aspects. One is perform devotional service. This faith is attained by discharge of devotional service. So in order to attain faith or in order to increase our faith, we need to perform bhakti. So this is the process. Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Bhajan Kriya Anartha Nivriti Nishta. So in order to attain firm faith, one has to practice bhakti. And one of the very important aspect of bhakti is chanting Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada quotes this entire Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting this Mahamantra is very important. By chanting this Mahamantra, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, all material dirts are gone away. So the conclusion is, one who is faithful to Krishna and one who controls the senses can attain perfect knowledge and Krishna consciousness without delay. So this verse stresses the importance of faith, determination, and dedication. So if you are determined, if you are dedicated, if you are faithful, just like in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, Narad Muni gives Dhruva the process, and Dhruva Maharaj very faithfully, very dedicatedly, he follows the process, and the result is he sees Krishna face to face. So the same process is there for all of us, provided we are very faithful to this. And faithful means in good times and bad times, in times of allurements, in times of sufferings, we don't give up the process. We continue on the process. That means we are faithful. Okay, so someone may say, what? Okay, this is the result of a faithful person. A faithful, dedicated person achieves transcendental knowledge, achieves peace. So what will happen to a person who doesn't have faith in Krishna? It is explained in the next verse. Agyanas cha shraddadanas cha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosthi na paro na sukam samshayatmanaha. Agyana, a fool who has no knowledge in standard scriptures. Cha, and ashraddadanaha, without faith in revealed scriptures. Cha, also, samshaya, of doubts. Atma, a person. Vinashyati, falls back. No, never. I am in this. Lokaha world, asti there is, no nor, paraha in the next life, no not, sukham happiness, samshaya doubtful, atmanaha of the person. Translation: but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness, they fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So, someone who is ignorant and someone who doesn't have any faith in the scriptures. So, attaining God is possible when we have faith in scriptures, faith in the previous acharyas. So, Prabhupada is mentioning all these points here. If you don't have faith in the scriptures and faith in the previous acharyas, then I mean, we will not experience happiness in this world nor in the next. So, Prabhupada mentions here the solution to success is having faith in scriptures. Follow the principles of scriptures with faith and rise to the platform of knowledge. Only by this knowledge, one can actually attain spiritual understanding. So, in order to realize who we are, who God is, what is our relationship with God, we need to follow this process. Therefore, in the start of the 4th chapter, Krishna explains this: Evam parampara praptam, imam raja rishio vidu. You have to follow in the footsteps of previous acharyas. And Krishna himself is stressing this process. Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashtena sevaya. My dear Arjuna, go to a self-realized soul and learn from him. So when we follow this, then we will attain success. But if you don't follow, if you don't have faith in scriptures, or you may, some people, as Prabhupada mentions here, they may quote scriptures, but without faith in the words. For such people, there is no progress at all. There is no happiness in this world or in the next. So the most important point in this verse is we need to have faith, and we should have faith in the scriptures and in the previous acharyas. If you have faith, just like Dhuru Maharaj, Narad Muni told him, do this step by step, you will meet Krishna. And Dhuru Maharaj, with full faith in Narad Muni, followed the process as it is, he attained perfection. Srila Prabhupada, the success of ISKCON, because he followed the orders of his guru perfectly. His spiritual master told him, go to the West and preach. His spiritual master told him to write books. Prabhupada did all these things perfectly. So faith in the previous gurus and faith in the scriptures is something that's very, very important to attain perfection. This is like the most crucial thing. Text 41. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchinna samshayam atmanvantam atmavantam na karmani nibandhanti dhananjaya. Word to word. Yoga, by devotional service in karma yoga. Sanyasta, one who has renounced. Karmanam, the fruits of action. Jnana, by knowledge. Sanchinna, cut. Samshaya, doubts. Atmavantam, situated in the self. No, never. Karmani, works. Nibandhanti, do bind. Dhananjaya, O conqueror of riches. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions, or conqueror of foes. So Krishna is saying here, what is the result of following the instruction of Bhagavad Gita? Right? The result is one who acts in devotional service. If you follow the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, means you practice Bhakti Yoga, right? You perform all your activities for Krishna's pleasure. Yat karosi, yad astasi, yad juhosi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurusham adarpanam. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of such actions. You work only for the pleasure of Krishna. So if you do this, what will happen? All your doubts will be destroyed, right? By the grace of Krishna, all doubts will be destroyed. Just like Arjuna at the start of the Gita, he had so many doubts, so many questions, so many confusions. But after hearing Bhagavad Gita, after attaining this transcendental knowledge, by the grace of Krishna, Tvat prasada maya chuta, Arjuna says, my dear Krishna, by your mercy, all my doubts have been destroyed. All my doubts have been destroyed, and I am situated in the self. So all doubts are destroyed, matlab, all confusions are cleared, and you understand that I am a spirit soul, aham brahmasmi, and my duty is to serve Krishna. Right? And such a person achieves bondage. He achieves liberation from all kinds of work. He's not bound to the reactions of such work. Atmavantam na karmani dibandhanti dhananjaya. He does not become bound by the reactions of such work. So this is the result of transcendental knowledge. One attains freedom from all reactions, and one is situated in the self. So in conclusion, the last verse of this chapter, Krishna explains, Tasmat ajnana sambhutam hridstam jnana sitatmanah chitvaivam samshayam yogam astitoshdista bharata. Word to word, Tasma, therefore, Ajnana Sambhutam, born of ignorance, Hritstam, situated in the heart, Gyan of knowledge, Asina, by the weapon, Atmanaha of the self, Chitva, cutting off, Enam, this, Samshayam, doubt, Yogam in yoga, Atishta, be situated, Uttishta, stand up to fight, Bharata or descendant of Bharata. Translation, therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So doubts which come in our heart is because of ignorance. And to destroy this ignorance, Krishna says, take the weapon of knowledge. And with this weapon of knowledge, cut all the ignorance. And Arjuna, O Bharata, stand up and fight. So Krishna's knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's inspiration in the Bhagavad Gita is to inspire Arjuna to fight, to do his duties to Krishna. So all of us, because of so many weakness and so many confusions, we may just want to retire from a spiritual activity. We are just lazy about performing bhakti. So Krishna is inspiring all of us through this wisdom of Gita that take up this weapon of spirituality, the weapon of knowledge, and then practice bhakti yoga with great conviction. Right? So Prabhupada explains in the purport here that in this entire fourth chapter called Sanatan Yoga, right, Krishna explains are eternal activities of the living entity. So we have different kinds of activities. We have the activity of the body, but our eternal activities to serve Krishna. We may have different bodily functions. Someone may be a housewife, someone may be working, but all our eternal duty is to serve Krishna. So this Sanatan Yoga is divided into two parts. One is called sacrificial actions. You do different kinds of yajna. But the purpose of such yajna is ultimately self-realization. So yajna or sacrifice or doing any kind of tapasya is not for material benefit, but for spiritual benefit, for spiritual realizations. So that is one kind of Sanatan Yoga. People do different kinds of yajna. And the other is spiritual activity, Krishna consciousness. And spiritual activity has two divisions, Prabhupada explains here. One is understanding one's own self, Gyan about Atma, and Gyan about Paramatma. These are two things. Right? And in order to do this, there are different ways. Some people take to the platform of knowledge, or some people, this is one kind of yajna, Jnana yajna, or some people take to different kinds of yajna. We saw from verse number 25 to 29 of this chapter, Krishna lists the different kinds of sacrifices, yajna, right? Dravyamay yajna, yoga yajna, right? Pranayam yajna, different kinds of yajna. But the common aim of all sacrifice is to come to the platform of self-realization. And what does self-realization means? To realize that I am Atma, and as Atma, I am a servant of Krishna. This is self-realization. And when someone comes to this platform, such a person is actually a real student of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada explains here, who can understand all this different kinds of spiritual activity? One who follows Bhagavad Gita. And how to study Bhagavad Gita? First is go to a guru, surrender unto him, render menial service, right? And then when you learn from him, then you gradually understand. And what do you understand? You understand how Lord is spiritual, Lord's activities is spiritual. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata. You understand all this. And how to remove ignorance? With faith, we should practice this knowledge. If we do this, then we will actually attain the stage of liberation. So Krishna is basically, in essence, inspiring Arjuna and through Arjuna to all of us to study Bhagavad Gita sincerely under a proper guru in a disciplic succession. And if you do this, if you follow the instructions of the guru very properly, then definitely we will attain perfection, right? So this is like the end of the fourth chapter. So just to conclude, verse number 34 to 40, this section that we saw last, what is Krishna explaining here? First, he explains how to achieve transcendental knowledge. How to achieve, we saw this verse, Tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. One should go to the guru, inquire submissively, ask relevant inquiries in a mode of service without any prestige. The goal is to please the guru. If you do this with faith, right, then one will attain perfection. So who is disqualified to achieve such knowledge? Krishna explained in 4.40, those who are ignorant, faithless, and doubting, they can't achieve perfection in this knowledge, right? So one needs faith and controlling of the senses. So this is how you achieve knowledge. What is the qualification of a guru? One who is self-realized, one who is tattvadarshi, he has seen the truth. And what is the result of such transcendental knowledge? The result is one sees all living entities as part and parcel of Krishna. He sees Krishna's connection even in this material world. He will never fall under illusion, and he will cross over the ocean of miseries, and his all his sinful reactions will be burnt away, and he will attain the measured fruit of devotional service. So here in this one slide, you can see how to achieve knowledge, who is disqualified for knowledge, the qualification of guru, and the result of transcendental knowledge. So how to achieve knowledge is to approach guru, render service unto him with great faith, control the senses. If you do this, one will attain knowledge. Uh, Only one who is faithless is disqualified for knowledge. So in order to enter into the school of Krishna consciousness, just like in order to enter into any school, college, you need a qualification, right? They check what was your previous marks or whatever. So similarly, in order to enter into the school of spirituality, the qualification that is needed is faith, shraddha. This is the only thing that is needed. Even in the song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains how Nityananda Prabhu Balaramji has come in Kali Yuga, and he has started a marketplace. He's opened up a shop where he's freely distributing Krishna Prem. He is distributing the holy name. So in order to purchase something, you have to have some currency, right? You need to have some money. So in order to enter into the shop of bhakti and purchase the bhakti or purchase the holy name, what one needs? One needs the currency of faith. Only with faith one can purchase. So one who doesn't have faith is disqualified. So the qualification of guru is mentioned here. And then what is the result of transcendental knowledge? Right? One will be free from all illusion, one suffering will disappear. All these things will happen provided with great faith, patience, determination, and dedication we follow this process. So this slide is like the summary of the entire fourth chapter, right? So this fourth chapter is called transcendental knowledge. So in the beginning of the fourth chapter, Krishna reveals the process of eternal education. Krishna explains how his activities and his appearance are all transcendental, janma karma cha me divyam. Then Krishna explains why he appears to deliver the pious, paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam, to annihilate the miscreants, dharma samsthapanarthaya, to re-establish dharma, right? And then he also explains how karma, even though he is the one who started karma, but the process of karma doesn't apply to him, right? Because he doesn't have a material body. And one who understands all these things about Krishna, one who understands Krishna properly, such a person doesn't have to take birth again. And in the next section, we saw how in this section called perfect understanding, accurate understanding, Krishna explains the process of reciprocation. Ye yatama prapadyante. As we surrender to Krishna, Krishna also awards accordingly. Then Krishna explains how he's the one who created the Varna Ashram system, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. But even though he's created the system, he doesn't belong to the system, right? And anyone who understands this about Krishna, that Krishna creates the Varnashram system, but he's not bound by it, such a person also becomes detached. Such a person also becomes liberated. Then Krishna explains the intricacies of action and reaction. We saw this section, how Krishna explains how that karma is a very difficult topic. Even learned people, even demigods are not able to fathom how the cycle of karma, the cycle of action and reaction work, right? So it's very, very complex to understand. And then finally, we saw how Krishna explains different kinds of yajna that is recommended in the Vedas. And all these yajnas culminate in transcendental knowledge. That's how Krishna builds it up. So there may be different kinds of yajnas that people perform, yajnas to demigods, yajna of sacrifice of giving charity, starting anath ashram, and so many things. But the culmination of all yajna is transcendental knowledge. And how one attains transcendental knowledge? By approaching a guru, rendering service to him. And if you do this, if you follow the teachings of the guru with faith, one attains the platform of spiritual peace, happiness, satisfaction, and God consciousness. So this is how the chapter concludes. So we will stop here. Anyone has any questions, any comments? Just a minute. Yeah. Anyone has any questions, any comments? You all can raise your hands. So we have concluded the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So the fifth chapter we may not be able to begin right now. So probably after Janmashtami we will see. The next 2-3 weeks we are busy with the Janmashtami programs. We'll keep you all updated, right? So till then you all can go through all the 4 chapters that we have discussed till now, and hopefully